Welcome to MarketPlay, the marketing podcast where we chat with small business owners and entrepreneurs all about what they do and how they got to where they are. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway, and we're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. So sit back and listen to our conversation as we chat all about business, and welcome to MarketPlay. Hello, I'm Meryl Hathaway, and today our guest is Joris Bryon, the founder and CEO of Dexter Agency, a remote team of e-commerce conversion optimization and email marketing specialists. The agency serves high-revenue e-commerce stores that are ready for continuous growth. With over 1,500 A/B tests under his belt, Joris wrote the book, Kill Your Conversion Killers, to help all the online stores he hasn't worked with yet. I am delighted to welcome Joris to the show. Hello, sir.
Hi, Meryl. Great to be here.
So nice to have you. We're going to jump right into our first segment of the show called Getting to Know You.
Right.
And I'm just going to ask you a series of this or that questions. Answer with your first instinct response. Don't feel like you have to think too hard about it, okay?
All right. Let's do this.
All right, here we go. Tablet or laptop?
Oh, laptop. Yeah. I mean, I have a tablet somewhere. I never use it. I just don't see the point of it. I have a phone, I have a laptop. Why do I need a tablet? I feel like a tablet is good. I use it as an e-reader for a while, and then as a second screen while traveling, because I like to work on two screens. If you connect them, you can use it as a second screen. So that kind of works.
Yeah.
But I never use it for what it's meant to be used. So I never got the point of tablet.
So
never understood it.
And yet you have one.
I have one.
So many people have one, and the response is always laptop.
You know what? I felt like I had to have one because I'm working in digital marketing, so I have to check it out sometimes. But I feel like it's something for, maybe it's stigmatizing saying that. So, but I feel like it's more for parents. So you can give it to your kids so they can watch YouTube and they're quiet. I don't have any kids, so maybe that's why I don't see the point of a tablet. But
I totally get that. And yes, I think the tablet is definitely a okay, enough. Here you go. kind of a thing. I actually use my tablet for drawing. I have an Apple Pencil and I use the an app called Procreate, a program called Procreate, and I do drawings and things in that. Yeah. That's what I use it for.
Right,
But I think a lot of people also use it as an e-reader.
Yeah, but that was never really the point of the tablet, I guess. But it's and for typing, it's not convenient. I mean, typing on your smartphone is not convenient either. But like, it's even worse on the tablet.
No.
You think it'd be easier, but
I get thumb wear out from my phone.
Yeah,
you know, where your thumbs get sore.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I have thick thumbs, so I pretty much give up typing on the phone. So I switched to a laptop. Great. Yeah, but anyway.
Oh, great. Okay. Next one is coffee or tea?
Tea. Yeah, I'm a tea person. Well, I had coffee this morning, which is kind of an exception, but usually I have tea. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite type of tea?
In the mornings I have black tea usually with a little bit of almond milk. It's very British, I guess, to add milk to it. But yeah, it actually tastes good. And then during the day, I like ginger tea. It's like very soothing. And warm.
Very nice. Yeah. I have a turmeric ginger tea in my cup right now.
Yeah, very healthy.
Which is really nice because very healthy. Turmeric is so good for you for so many different things, for inflammation.
Absolutely.
And then ginger, I like the flavor. I never drank ginger or ate ginger anything for a long time, but now I love it.
And
so that's my go-to.
If your stomach is upset, it's ginger always.
Yes, definitely. Yes. I love those ginger chews too. They're so good. They're like just a little bit spicy.
Yep. Absolutely.
One of my favorites.
I'm a fan.
Okay. Yeah. Instagram or TikTok?
That's a tough choice because I would say neither of them. LinkedIn.
That's okay. I've gotten that answer a lot, actually.
LinkedIn. I'm not a big social media fan, to be honest, because for me it's like a huge waste of time. Usually, it doesn't bring much. It doesn't add much value to my life. Usually, sometimes it does, but so I kind of deliberately stay away from most of it, except for LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. I like the conversations there. I learn a lot. So that's why I prefer LinkedIn, actually.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is actually has become my favorite as well. I am also not a huge proponent of social media. It can be used for very good things. I also have friends who love buying off of Instagram. Like they follow accounts that do clothes for their body types and target them specifically, but it works for them, so they enjoy it for that or for inspiration. There's ways of putting out like a lot of authenticity and positivity through social media, but most of it I really don't subscribe to. But LinkedIn, I agree that I can actually learn a lot on there, and people share really interesting articles. And I mean, we share the podcast on there, and then people get to like find people on there and can share that way. So I agree. I think LinkedIn is probably my favorite out of all of them, but Instagram and TikTok being the most popular, especially like, in the social world, it's sort of important to ask.
Yeah, I just don't like the feeling after like scrolling through your feed for like half an hour and then all of a sudden realizing like I just lost half an hour and it didn't add any value to my life whatsoever. That's also why I'm not a gamer.
Amen.
Because it's fun while you're doing it, but then you stop doing it and you're like, but I just lost 2 hours. It wasn't really productive or didn't learn anything or didn't clear my head. I just got like, from gaming. So that's, I'm a bit weird like that, I guess.
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. All right. Online or in-person shopping?
Oh, online. Yeah, for sure. It's so
especially
much easier.
Nowadays, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's been like that for me ever since it was possible to buy online. Even before a lot of people were buying online, they were like, are you really trusting that? Are you actually going to buy something online? Does that actually work? And you're going to lose your money? And so like, no, it's so much easier. Let's do this. It's
Yeah, it is. It's so much easier. And also like just the convenience factor is definitely really big, I would say. But also, I don't know. The interactions I have at stores are so much less now anyway, that like missing the person to person aspect of it is not that big of a deal. I kind of feel like, I get those interactions more if I'm going to go to like the grocery store or if I'm going to go buy a tea or a coffee or something, even grabbing a 6-pack of beer at the local shop. Like I have a good conversation with all of those people, not as much in stores, just because those people are also trying to upsell a lot of the time. And when you're online shopping, I feel like you don't get the upsell as much. You can just click that little box away if you're not interested.
True. And I think for me, it's also just, there's so many more options online than just if you go to the mall or to high street shopping here in Europe, which is, I guess, more popular than malls here. It's I mean, you're limited to what's there, and sometimes you just don't find what suits you. And one of the reasons for me as well, I'm vegan, so sometimes if you buy, let's say, clothes, for instance, you want to make sure there's no animal products in there. So you do your research and you can buy in more specialty stores. So for me, that's an important factor as well. So you can do the research, find the product that you like, or the brand that you can stand behind. And so that's
absolutely. Reason. I love that. I commend you on being vegan. It's an aspiration I have. I did go vegan just for a few months a number of years ago, and I did it all the wrong ways. Like I just ate like a plate of Brussels sprouts and then like a plate of something else, and I was like I sabotaged that so badly without realizing it, because I'm not a great cook. And so I definitely made huge mistakes the first go around, but if I tried again, I'm in a much better place with all of that. And I could not stand behind it more. I know it's great for the environment.
It's just easier nowadays because it's a lot more mainstream than it was. I became vegan in 2015, I think. So there's still early days before like it became a thing, I'd say, and it took some preparation and finding out some research, but right now it's a lot easier. Well, here in Spain, really depends. I live in Spain, and It depends. In the
Yeah.
cities, it's easy, but as soon as you leave the cities, it's hard to. Well, it's not easy.
It's harder to figure out.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of like that everywhere.
Yeah.
I live in the Los Angeles area, and there are a lot of actual just vegan restaurants or almost vegan grocery shops where you can just go in and they have prepackaged meals or a lot of different vegan options. Even, our local like Trader Joe's grocery store, they have different vegan options. So they make it much easier than it used to be. It used to be much more difficult. I agree. But
absolutely.
it's globally becoming more of a popular option where it's possible. So okay.
It's popular.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
No, it's popular now. I mean, it used to be like, you're a weirdo, and now it's almost you're a hipster because you're a vegan. So it changed.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. You're cool.
Yeah.
You get cool points for it. All right. Netflix or YouTube?
Netflix. Yeah. I like to watch a couple of episodes every night of a series. I just like to wind down and switch my brain off because I don't have to make any decisions. I just decide what to watch, and I sit back, relax, and let it all come to me. And
does it for you.
Yeah, it really helps me wind down. And on YouTube, I use YouTube a lot as the search engine and to learn a lot as well.
Yeah.
But you have to make a lot of decisions when you're on YouTube. You have to choose which one you're going to watch, and then after that, oh, maybe this was not good enough. Let's watch that one, not this one, and it's good, but not for unwinding. Well, at least not for me.
Yeah, it's a little more you have to be a little more engaged with decision making. You're right. Whereas Netflix, you can put on a series and it just goes from episode to episode to episode, which is nice. I've fallen asleep many a time to a Netflix series of some kind. Yeah.
See,
I
it
totally
works.
relate.
You unwind. You fall asleep. So, perfect.
Exactly. Talk about unwinding. Yeah. I'm asleep now. I've become unconscious. Thank you. All right. Lastly, book writing or book reading?
Oh, I've written a book. I'm in the process of writing a second one. I'd say reading.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'd say reading. It sounds a lot easier.
Yeah, it is. It is. To be honest, after writing the first book, I haven't even written a blog post. I was done with writing. So
it's a lot.
Yep.
So I imagine you're one of those people who did not use the help of like a ghostwriter to write your book, because I hear about those or I read about those. That's always so interesting to me, because I guess that means that the writer writes their pieces and then they give them to someone else to basically rewrite all of it so that it has more of like a writer feel versus the person themselves.
Yeah.
But man, that sounds like clearly double the amount of work and time going into that, right?
I guess it really depends on because you can be an expert and share a lot of ideas, but not really be a good writer. I think it makes a lot of sense to use a ghostwriter, and working with a ghostwriter really helps as well if you don't have a lot of time, because usually it's a lot of interviewing, and based on that, they write a book for you. All the knowledge comes from you. They just put it on paper. So
it's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing position to be in. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a good thing. But it really depends on who you are and what you can motivate yourself to. Because I wrote the first version of my book in 6 weeks, which was, it's just, you have to be very disciplined. I started every morning. First thing I did was write. And then after 2 or 3 hours of writing, I just did the rest of my work. But it was always a priority. First thing in the morning, writing. And it requires a lot of discipline to get there. But I pulled it off.
Well, good on you for doing it, because you're helping people with that book. So really well done. So speaking of which, let's move into our next section of the show, which is called Humble Beginnings. And I would love to know, Joris, what was your very first job ever?
Does a summer job count as well, or?
Yes, a summer job absolutely counts. If you made money doing it, what were you doing?
I was actually an attendant on night trains in summer job. Yeah.
Wow.
Which is kind of cool, because I got to see quite a lot of places.
I
It
bet.
made really good money, and it was very very flexible. So whenever I wanted to do it, I just had to call. I believe on Tuesdays I had to call the office, and then they told me where I would go on Fridays. And so it was always from Fridays to Sundays. So you left on Friday afternoon in Brussels, that was, and then from Brussels anywhere south of Europe, you got there on Saturday mornings, got a hotel room, some money to spend there. You go to see a nice place, turn back in the evening with the night train, and get back to Brussels in the morning. So on Sunday mornings,
Oh
and
my gosh,
make
I want that job now.
yeah, it
That
doesn't
sounds
exist. It
amazing.
doesn't exist anymore because it was kind of adventurous. There was a lot of camaraderie between people working on those night trains and a lot of stories
Yeah.
as well. So
Oh, I
yeah,
was gonna say if that's a night train situation, that means there are stories
yeah,
galore.
yeah. It was there was even one train where there was a disco on. So there was actually a club on the train, and that was insane. I mean, you could sleep on those trains because
Tell me
that
about it.
there were
Yeah.
beds in those trains, but usually there wasn't much sleeping going on. Like a lot of partying on those trains. Yeah, it was special
Now,
times.
did you get to join the party? Like, where you get to be a part of
Yeah,
the
well,
disco?
you do have the responsibility of like up to 60 people. I was, and but if everyone was partying, you could join him. Just make sure not to be too drunk, and so that you can still attend to them and help them out if they had a problem. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. That sounds so cool. Like, I mean, there's so many different things you can try to do as a kid or to start off with your first job. And for that to be the first one to get to see so many places
Yeah,
too. Where had
it's
you traveled at all before that, or was that the sort of the first
not
time you got
that.
to really
Yeah,
travel?
not that much. We used to go to the same place every year with my parents, and then we went to France, where we had some family lived there, and so we always went to the same place. So that for me was we, I explored quite a few
Really cool.
places. Went to Milan several times, and that was fun because you arrived 7 a.m. in the morning, and 9 p.m. you just took the train back, and it was a full day in Milan. So it's not too bad.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, so cool.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
it's really
So,
cool.
all the way from being a train attendant to where you are now. So, tell us a little bit about the path of how
Yeah.
you got into the business that you do today.
So yeah, I graduated before digital marketing even existed. So well, stuff that I'm
Yeah.
doing right now didn't exist back in the day. And I got a job at an advertising agency, and I did that for well several advertising agencies for about 10 years, and I really liked the job. But what I started to kind of hate after a while was endless discussions of, oh, make this blue, make this red, put this left, put this right, make it bigger, make it, I know, all of that based on nothing. Endless discussions that would really go on for a long time, and usually it didn't really add anything. So um, I got fed up and decided to go travel a while as well. Traveled a couple of months through Australia, Southeast Asia. Got back, found myself another job in an advertising agency because I was broke. So I had to, I was like, I'll do the same thing again. Then I left that agency,
Yeah.
started a video production company, which was a wild idea because I
Oh.
had no idea. I didn't know anything about video production, but just seemed cool. Um, that
Sometimes that's okay though, right?
just learn by doing, and yeah, that's what I did for about a year and a half, but didn't really go well. And by accident, I kind of stumbled upon SEO because I started a travel blog, and I was like, how am I going to get more people to the site? And I was like, oh, SEO, how does that work? So I went all in on SEO, and I really enjoyed that. I was like, oh, digital marketing is actually a lot more fun than classic advertising. So I was like, oh, this is cool. So I found myself a job in an agency to learn a lot more about SEO and PPC and that kind of stuff. And then in that agency, I came across conversion optimization. Well, basically on a conference, I saw a talk about conversion optimization, and I was like, oh man, this is so cool. And the reason for me why it all clicked was that a lot of the
Yeah.
stuff that I had learned in classical advertising agencies, I could now use, but with real data behind it. And so no more discussions of make this blue, make this red, put this there, put this there. It's like, let's test it, and we'll see. And all of the knowledge that I had about copywriting, design, psychology, all that stuff was still useful. So I learned a lot about that in classical advertising, but now I could really use that in conversion optimization with a lot of data behind it. So for me, that was kind of a revelation. Like, oh, this is what I want to do. So I went all in, took any course I could lay my hands on, and read a lot of books and studied. And then I asked the agency, like, hey, can I do this for a client? Because I want to try this. And I could actually, yeah, I could do this on one project, but then they didn't really have clients back then that were interested in doing conversion optimization. So I left the agency and ventured out on my own as a freelancer. And all of a sudden, well, got a lot of work, and it turned into an agency. So that's a bit of the story, and been doing this for 6 years now.
Wow. So interesting that you're able to, like, I almost felt the moment that it all clicked, right? That you were so fed up with certain things from the previous type of work, but you could see value in it. I mean, there was value in it, but it was also like, why are we doing it like this? And then you were able to find, when the SEO and all those other things sort of clicked in a different way, you were like, oh, I can actually apply all of this stuff that was sort of annoying before, but now it makes so much more sense. So what are, being someone who only knows a certain amount about this kind of work, what are some of the common like misconceptions about optimizing conversions, like that people like me might be confused about, honestly?
Yeah, I think we have a bit of a problem with conversion optimization, because it's not as straightforward as, let's say, PPC or SEO, even though I'm not saying that's straightforward. There's a lot of complexity to it as well, but most people can wrap their heads around it. Whereas conversion optimization, it almost seems like hocus pocus to some people. They're like, ooh, does this really work? How can this tiny change make such a big difference? And so there's sometimes it's even disbelief, like, nah, can't be true. So there's a lot of misconceptions, but I think it all starts already with the term CRO, conversion rate optimization. I hate it, to be honest.
What would you call it if you could call it something different?
I mean, I tend to call, well, first of all, I dropped the R. So conversion optimization, I usually say conversion optimization. If we have to stick to the acronym, I think we do, because most people use it nowadays, and it's like we have PPC, we have SEO, so we need another three-letter acronym.
Yeah, it has to be 3 letters.
It has to be 3 letters. So if it's CRO, I think like continuous revenue optimization is probably a better term, because revenue at the end of the day and profit is a much more important metric than conversion rate. I mean, if we slash your prices, your conversion rate is going to go up, but maybe your revenue or your profit will not follow. And as a business, it's not a good idea. Then you're just so hung up on your conversion rate, but what does it tell? It's not, I mean, it's not that important. It's just one metric, but it shouldn't be the final metric. And there are so many factors at play. And as a conversion agency, I think sometimes we have to battle that misconception about, oh, it's all about conversion rate, because we had one case, for instance, where a client, they were selling shoes, D2C brand selling shoes, and they changed their collection, and their conversion rate tanked just overnight with the new collection. And they're like, what's going on? Our conversion rate tanked. Solve it. We're like, yeah, I mean, you changed the collection. People probably don't really like it as much as the previous collection. It's not something we can solve. But they're like, no, conversion rate, that's you. You have to solve it. And so there's, I think we have to kind of nuance the whole conversion rate as a metric. It really is about revenue and profit, and not as much as conversion rate. It's just a metric that helps you understand some things, but it's not the most important metric. So that's one thing. That's one very common misconception. And I think another one is that a lot of people think it's a quick fix. Like, hey, tell me what to do, what I should change to my site, and we're done. It isn't. It's a lot of work. It's like you have to put in the time, do the research, understand the data, understand your users, come up with solutions to problems that you find, test those solutions, see what works best, and then implement what works best. And so it just isn't something that you pay a consultant for 5 hours of work and he'll tell you, or she'll tell you, like, this is what you need to do, and we're done. you've done zero, you've covered that, you can cross that off your list. So that's not how it works. So I think that's
like anything else, it's ongoing work and like staying on top of it and looking at all different sides of it and then going back again. It takes a lot of work. Yeah.
And it's not something people want to hear, because usually we're all looking for shortcuts and growth hacks, another term I hate, but it's
yep.
you have to put in the work and the time, and it'll get you there and you'll get the results. But I think there's also a lot of false expectations because of and it's another misconception. A lot of people think like, oh, I'm gonna run one A/B test and I'm gonna double my conversion rate because I read a case study there and they tripled their conversion rate even. No, that's not going to be the case. Let's face it. It's more likely you'll win the lottery than finding something that'll triple your conversion rate overnight. So it's possible if you really have a bad side, but usually it's just a matter of a lot of incremental wins that add up over time. And there's a lot of bullshit case studies out there that claim very high results, and people want that too, and that's why they start conversion optimization. But that's if you start with those expectations, you're going to be disappointed, that's for sure. So it's a continuous effort, and that's also why I prefer continuous revenue optimization. I think that coins or it covers more what we do with as a CRO practitioner than focusing too much on the conversion rate and those quick wins. And so it's I mean, there's a lot more misconceptions, but let's keep it at those.
Yeah, but those are some really, I mean, those are pretty clear. I mean, that makes a lot of sense why those are big ones, and it's good for people to know. So all that being said, what's the biggest reason that you see to run an A/B test for someone, especially if it's, the running just one is probably not going to be enough. You're going to have to do more than that. But what's the biggest reason behind doing it?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And one is you want to test it first to find winners. But I think as an industry, we're overemphasizing finding winners. I think what is equally important is preventing you from making mistakes that it'll cost you money. So if you run a good A/B testing program, what you'll see is you'll get a win rate of about 1 out of every 3 A/B tests is going to win. There's going to be tests that are inconclusive, and there's going to be losers. Now, those losers are probably things that you otherwise would have implemented anyway, and they would have cost you money. So it's just also kind of loss prevention that you're doing. And we have one client that came to us, and they had been speaking to other agencies, and they decided to go with us. And he was like, but first thing I want to do is add the benefits bar, that kind of bar on top of every e-commerce site that says like free shipping or handmade in USA, that kind of stuff. So, and because we don't have one, and the other guy from the other agency told me it's a best practice, it's a no-brainer. Let's just do this. And it's like, you know what? I prefer to test this. Usually, yes, you're right. Usually it is going to work better, but from experience, I know that what works on one side doesn't necessarily work on another side. So I prefer to test this. And he agreed to test it, and the result of the test was actually they had a 99% probability of losing $1 million a year if they would have implemented that.
Oh my gosh. That's dramatic. That's a lot.
Absolutely. And that's why you A/B test, to prevent that kind of mistake. And now,
to make sure you're not like, whoops, that was bad.
Yep. But the thing is, so most people think like, but $1 million a year, you would notice. Well, I don't think you would, because it's $1 million a year, but that client was doing around 10, 11 million a year. So let's say they were at a conversion rate of 1%, and they go to 0.9%, and they implemented this with the conviction that this is actually really helping them, or at least not hurting their conversions. They're so convinced of that idea, so they implement it, they do it, and they see a slight drop, because from 1 to 0.9, you're like, it's a normal fluctuation. It's a Tuesday, or the weather changed, or a competitor launched a promotion, or I changed my campaigns, or whatever. So you look at a lot of other reasons. Or maybe the site has slowed down a little bit, so there's a lot of other reasons that could explain that drop from 1% to 0.9%. But it goes unnoticed, because you're so convinced that what you implemented actually helped you that you probably will not be suspicious of that change to the site. And so there is a pretty good chance that it would go unnoticed. And by the end of the year, it amounts to $1 million in this particular case. So I think that's a really good reason and a compelling case to A/B test, because you just don't know if it's going to work. And if it doesn't work and you just implement it, you might be losing money. So that's why you're.
Oh my gosh, it's a huge reason. But I like the way that you called it loss prevention. That makes so much sense. The way that you said it like that.
It's not sexy. Oof. It's not sexy, I'd say, but it's necessary.
Not everything has to be, though, either, right? Like some things are just necessary. They're not going to feel sexy. So,
True.
Okay. So I have another question. So what would you consider your favorite tool for analyzing e-commerce? Because there's, what would your favorite be if you had to choose something?
I think it's probably not going to be surprise when it comes to quantitative data. I'm a big Google Analytics fan. I think it's an amazing tool. Free. You can get a lot of information out of it. However, if I would have to say like what's my number one, I would probably go for a user testing tool. I'm a big fan of user testing. There's tools out there like usertesting.com or Userfeel. There's others out there as well, but we use Userfeel. And basically what you do is you give a bunch of tasks to actual users who have to perform those tasks on your website, and they have to comment out loud. You get a recording of their screen, so you see them do it, you'll hear them giving feedback, and it's so valuable. And it's qualitative research, but it's usually so much more valuable than all the quantitative stuff. And I'm saying I'm a big data nerd, but I try to balance it out a little bit, because I think we've gone too far sometimes as digital marketers, where we lost feeling with people and with what's going on in their minds, and we look at the data and we believe we can find all the answers in a tool like Google Analytics, which we can't, because basically what can you see in Google Analytics? You can see, oh, there's a high drop off on this page, but why is the drop off? Don't really know. You just have to guess then. So user testing will tell you why that's happening, because people will say like, I don't understand why it works like this, or I don't understand what it really looks like, because the pictures are not really clear, or oh, that's expensive, and so you get a lot of feedback, and that's the why that you're looking for, because we're at the end of the day we're still selling to people, and as digital marketeers, I think we all have gone too far in hiding behind data, and data are great, like quantitative data are great, but we have to have more attention to people and the human mind and what people actually think and do on your site.
Yes, I love that. Yes. We can't forget that this is all about people. At the end of the day, it's about people. You're a person, I'm a person. Everybody out there who's a client or a customer is a person. So I agree with you. It's really good to keep that in mind and not like lose sight in just all the numbers.
Yeah.
So stepping away just from the matter itself, I'd love to know, why is it that you decided to write your book? Like, what propelled you to write a book, knowing how hard it was going to be, and then having done it and now writing a second? Like, what brought you to do that?
Right. Is being a masochist, is that a correct answer? No, I don't know.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Basically for me, I read a lot of conversion optimization books, and a lot of them were really interesting, but sometimes a bit too high level. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I felt there was a need for something very pragmatic, very hands-on, where it's almost a manual to do conversion optimization for your e-commerce yourself. So I had a lot of people who really, they take the book and they start implementing it, then they just do it step by step as described in the book. So that was the main driver, because I felt there was a need to make it very, very hands-on, very pragmatic, very concrete, so that people could implement it themselves.
So you're not also just speaking in like a scientific sort of math language.
Oh, no.
You're speaking to people who don't know all of that, who can instead see. And that's what I think is so powerful, because I will say, I've tried to read certain things like certain business books or a variety of different topics, what have you. And it really can get overwhelming with trying to just almost translate what they're saying. So using the word pragmatic as a reason is like the best, because it still is completely, it's usable, but it's more usable and user friendly, really.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. No, but that was the idea, is really try to demystify a little bit as well, because I know that the conversion optimization community sometimes loses itself in what I call intellectual masturbation, and it's like they're so proud of how clever they are, and they try to make it more complicated than it is, or seem smarter than they are, and I think that's. I mean, they'll say to their clients like, "Oh, you have to understand your user. You have to speak the language of your user," and then they themselves are talking way above the heads of the people that they want to target, and they try to make themselves look smart. And I think that's wrong. I mean,
Everybody's putting on a show, Joris. Everyone. It's really remarkable, right? Like,
yep. Absolutely. Yeah. And I just think we're doing the CRO community or conversion optimization community a disservice as well, because the more people try to understand it and really understand it by reading something accessible, that's good for everyone. It's good for their business, but it's also good for the conversion optimization community, because there's a lot of, we often have to like defend ourselves and explain ourselves and educate people, but then at the same time there's a lot of people that just talk about above your heads, and but I don't even know what you're saying.
right.
And,
yeah. No, I love your perspective, and I think it's a fantastic reason to have written your book and approached it the way that you did. Why not let regular people also work on these things and understand it, rather than trying to go over their heads. So, all right, last question I have about this is sort of just, what's the toughest part about attracting clients, right? Because having your own agency, going out on your own, starting new, you've been in it for a while, obviously, but what's the toughest part of that, or something that you would recommend to other people who are building out an agency?
I think one of the toughest parts of building an agency, and it's hard to overcome, it's just something we have to live with. I think there's most of the clients have been burdened by an agency before, and we have to kind of earn their trust and make up for the mistakes others made. Fair enough, it's something we have to live with, but it's there's a lot of skepticism, like, oh, an agency, not sure. I've worked with an agency before and got burned, and so I think that's one thing that is really hard, and it is what it is. We just have to live with it and try and earn the trust. I think for a conversion optimization agency, it's really trying to set the right expectations, and that goes for any agency. Setting the right expectations. And I'm a big fan of under promise, over deliver. But most salespeople in agencies over promise and under deliver. Yeah. And
right. It's so true on like across all fronts, really, too, across all industries. There's a lot of promising, and then where's the follow through?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's easy. And sometimes we lose a deal to another agency, and then I think to myself like, oh, they're probably better at promising stuff. I'm not saying they're better at doing conversion optimization, but
at actually doing it.
Yeah, they're probably better at promising stuff, and that's fine, because then it's fine. It's not for us.
We'll see what happens with that, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's move into our last segment of the show. It's called Branded. And this is where I get to add, I get to say the word percentage a lot, which is one of my favorite things. Because I never get to in my regular life, so I get to here. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you 3 multiple choice questions.
Okay.
And these are all kind of around the world of email marketing, that kind of side of things.
Yeah.
Because it's so prevalent and it's such a big thing, and we'll see. Also, if you get all of them wrong, you win the show. If you get all of them right, you double win the show. So no matter what, you're walking away with there's no losers. You're walking away with a giant virtual medal. Okay, so here we go.
Bring it on.
All right. Number 1, what percentage of online adults use email? I thought this was interesting. A, 83%, B, 92%, or C, 45%.
See, that's where the nerd kicks in. Like, which country are we talking about, or is it worldwide?
It's worldwide, I believe, was the statistic I was pulling from. It might just be US because sometimes I don't even realize that the research is just US
Okay.
based. So
If it's
just
worldwide,
roll with
I'd
me
go
on
for
the
the
global
lowest number,
idea.
which is still pretty high. But because I
Oh,
think
okay.
like if it's worldwide, I'd go for the lowest number. 82,
Okay,
82
so
it
maybe
was,
then
I
it's
believe.
just US.
Let's go for the highest number then.
The correct answer is B, 92%
Oh,
of
okay.
people use email.
Yeah,
But
I'm
it's
still winning.
online adults too. And I think this one was based in the US. I just thought like it's interesting to me because I think almost everyone has accounts. It doesn't mean they're actually
Using it a
always
lot.
using
Yeah.
them or that they're using them for like practical purposes per se.
Yeah.
But it's almost anyone who is online at all. You think about it,
Yeah.
and I think the very first thing that I did when I knew online was getting an email account. And even then, I
Absolutely.
didn't use it for anything. I had a Juno
Yeah.
account when I first got email. But I just thought that was so interesting. Like almost everyone who goes online at all has email. That's
Yeah.
just a part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's just such a huge target market.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's still underrated, I guess. A lot of marketers think like, oh, email is dead, or no, in e-commerce it's just like the best performing channel. Just email more instead of less.
Oh no, yeah. Yeah, well, let's move on to our next question.
Mm-hmm.
So, what percentage of consumers prefer to be contacted by brands through email? Is it A, 29%, B, 48%, or C, 61%?
I was going to say before any number, it was just like the number that popped up in my head was 63%. So let's go for 61%. That was a third option, right?
You're correct. Yeah,
okay,
that's
cool.
amazing. So you said in your brain 63. Yeah, it's 61.
Yeah, that was like my first guess, like 63. Yeah, then came 61. Okay, close enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I think about it like this. I hate getting calls, right? Do not call me.
Mm-hmm.
Do not text me either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in fact, I signed up, and I'm going to be real honest here. I, through the pandemic, got a handful of Pizza Hut pizzas, okay? We were going through some shit. And I got some Pizza Hut pizzas, and I signed up for their rewards program. So now I get text messages from Pizza Hut. And I'll tell you, rather than stopping it, because normally I do hate it, but it makes me laugh every time I get a text from them. So I haven't deleted it. But if they were emailing me, I guarantee you it would actually work better than the texting. But like calling and texting does not work for me. And then when I am on socials, I personally don't love getting ads that are like targeted at me based on things that I've seen or looked up and stuff. But email, I almost always, if it's the right thing, I go and I click and I go and I peruse the website. And there are certain things that I get now as newsletters that are absolutely very useful. Usually I'm getting good information through the email. So it didn't surprise me at all that it was the higher number.
Yeah, and it's just like personal, but not too personal, like calling. It's I think it's I live in Spain and things are different here. Unfortunately, email is. I mean, if you send an email to a company with a question, we're still surprised to get an answer over email. If they email back, usually they say like, "Can you give me your phone number? I'll call you." Like, what's the point of having an email address?
I don't want to bother.
No, it's kind of different here in Spain, but yeah, I get it. I prefer email for sure.
Yeah. Oh, and Spain is so beautiful. I can't wait to go back someday. All right, last question. What is the top reason people choose to unsubscribe from an email list? And this is just really one of the top reasons why people choose to unsubscribe from an email list. Is it A, too many graphics within the email, B, too many emails, or C, too many sales being advertised?
I'd go for probably B.
Yeah, it's B. It's just too many emails. Like, do not email me every day. What are you doing? How much information do we need to be gathering here?
And yet, a lot of people who will see this or hear this statistic, they'll think like, oh, let's not email more. But most of them can still have some margin to email more. So that's the statistic that puts some people off of emailing more, which they should be doing. But yeah, there's a threshold. At some point, it's too much. So for sure.
Right. Sometimes there's too much, but you do want to be emailing a certain amount if that's a place where it works for you. Absolutely. But when there's too many, I mean, I literally had a company I bought one thing from, and the next thing I knew, I was getting emails every single day.
Yeah.
And I unsubscribed from all.
Yeah. And I think it's because before you mentioned the options, I was like, it's probably going to be irrelevant. And it wasn't a list because I was thinking like, oh, why do I unsubscribe? Is because at some point it's irrelevant for me because I already bought and I'm not planning to buy again, and that's fine. So but that's also probably at that point where you start perceiving it as being too much. It's like, I just bought from you last week. I'm not going to buy again, and you email me every single day, and it's not relevant to me anymore because I already fulfilled that need.
Yeah.
So it's probably
absolutely, and that is a top reason that the irrelevancy. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Joris, it was so lovely to have you on the show. I would love. Yeah, that was the last one. You won. You won so hard. Congratulations.
Yay. Send me that medal.
So, yes, you get your virtual medal. I'm going to throw it to you. Ready?
Cool.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I got it.
Yay, you got it. I love it. We threw from US to Spain. So as we wrap up here, why don't you let us know and the listeners know how they can find you, how they can reach out, ask questions, find out where to get your book, all of those wonderful things.
All right. So yeah, I'm not on, don't look for me on Instagram or TikTok. We covered that. You can find me on LinkedIn, pretty active there. So feel free to connect on LinkedIn. And you can, I actually have you can have a free PDF version of my book if you want. So just go to dexter.agency/free-book, and there you can just get the free PDF version of my book. You can buy it on Amazon and spend $19, but you could get it for free. So just go there. So.
Look at you giving it away.
Because I want everyone to know how to do this. So
that's amazing. It's so generous of you. Fantastic. Joris Bryon, it was wonderful to have you. It was so lovely to chat with you. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening in Spain. I'm slightly jealous. I'm not going to lie.
Thanks so much, Meryl. It was great being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to MarketPlay this week. I'm your host, Meryl Hathaway. We're brought to you by Two Trees PPC out of Sacramento, California. Always fighting for the small business. If you liked our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your colleagues. Have a safe week out there, and we'll see you next time.